Sunday night, the Miami Dolphins are heading to Philadelphia for what might be the game of the week. Action-packed, tons of offense. Miami is +2. Eric Pauly from the Gold Sheet will be joining us to discuss that game. As well, we are going to talk about the Falcons game and the New Orleans Saints game. Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. I'm Lawrence Presman, and you're watching the world's best daily sports betting show on the planet. Teddy covers with us. Let's go. Bryan Power, how are you, my friend? What's going on?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just happy to be here. We're all friends on a Wednesday. Let's get into some games.
Wait, Teddy, when did we decide we were all friends?
I'm not sure, but that might, of all the intros you've ever done, and you were talking about it beforehand, that was weak, bro. That was not a good intro.
So my other computer ran out of battery. I had to put the YouTube chat on this computer, and I forgot to mute it. So I had a million things going on in the ears. So how about we start it again, Teddy? Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. Bryan Power joining us. The anal Teddy covers with me. Excited to be here. Bryan, welcome to the show.
Always excited to be here, Prez, Teddy. Glad we're all getting along here, and just a great time to be alive, I suppose.
And, of course, on today's show, we're going to break down some of the biggest games in the NFL for this weekend, as well as take a look at a couple college football games and some MLB baseball for tonight. So there's a ton of actionable info for you to stick around and watch the show. Bryan, let's get started. Talk a little Falcons and Bucks. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen NFL action for Sunday. I'm seeing Tampa -2.5. Seeing some juice on some of the 2.5s now. 2.5 -120 at a couple of spots. Total sitting at 38. Bettors expecting a relatively low-scoring game between two teams that have been better on the defensive side of the football than the offensive side of the football so far this season. Neither Desmond Ridder nor Baker Mayfield had a game last time out that they wish to remember or they wish to emulate moving forward. Which one of those two QBs plays better this week? And what do you like in Bucks Falcons early start action on Sunday?
Yeah, first things first, interest of full disclosure here. I do have the Falcons +8.5 in the second leg of a teaser I gave out to clients. Already cashed first leg with the Chargers Monday night. You know, the numbers you ran through there, Teddy, low total, obviously teasing through the key numbers of 3 and 7. I feel pretty good about that. Obviously still believe the Falcons are a great teaser piece for Sunday if there's something else you were looking to tease. But I'm going to make the case that Falcons +2.5 is the right side. Maybe we try. You know, you said there's some juice on the 2.5 now in the Bucks. Maybe we wait till 3 pops up. But I'm going to stick to my guns here with these two teams in my preseason reads. I said Atlanta would win the NFC South. I still think they can, and winning here against a division opponent would go a long way in attaining that goal. Now, you would have thought if the Falcons are a true contender that they would have beaten Washington last week at home. Instead, they lose 24-16. But that was one of several misleading finals on Sunday. I tweeted about it. Falcons outgained the Commanders 402-193. Unfortunately, as you pointed out, Teddy, Ridder had a bad game. He tosses 3 interceptions, 2 of Washington's 3 TD drives, 30 yards or less. So I thought that game was more about the Falcons losing it than the Commanders winning it. Atlanta had a 2-1 edge in first downs. The defense held the Commanders to 3.9 yards per play. And like I said, there were a lot of games like that on Sunday. If people go through the box scores, there were only 2 teams in that 1 p.m. Eastern window that outgained the opposition and won. One of them, Cleveland, almost lost. The other one was Miami. But Atlanta, due for some positive regression. I think Tampa Bay is a team we should look to fade, especially as a favorite. I've never been a Baker Mayfield guy. The Bucs offense is 31st in early down success rate, so second worst. They don't run the ball effectively. They were exposed last week against the Lions in a 20-6 loss, just 250 total yards despite being at home off a bye. I like Atlanta here to not just stay within that teaser range, but to cover the +2.5, Teddy.
So Desmond Ridder's been pretty awful this season. I, like you, was high on Atlanta coming into the campaign. And Atlanta's not going to win the division because their quarterback isn't good enough. and Atlanta's going to struggle to finish 500 because their quarterback isn't good enough. Desmond Ridder has been awful, and there's no sugarcoating it. I would rank him at or near the bottom of the NFL based on my eye test. Okay, I don't know what the stats are, but Ridder's been pretty awful. Here he's going up against a good defense. What makes you think that Desmond Ridder can figure it out this week against a good defense when he hasn't been able to do it in more friendly environments against weaker defenses than this one?
Okay, I've got a stat for you. He's actually thrown for over 600 yards the last 2 weeks. I agree with you on the eye test. There's a lot of confusion. I mean, if you watch the end of that game against Washington last week, it seemed like there was communication issues with, him and Arthur Smith getting the plays in. They were late. There was a lot of confusion. So he can throw the ball. The Falcons have weapons at the skill positions. It's about reducing mistakes. Okay, and yes, that is the concern. I talked about the 3 interceptions. I'm looking this sort of big picture, and has Atlanta taken a bit of a hit from what I thought of them in the preseason? Yeah, sure, but I'm still confident that Tampa Bay is not as good as what we saw those first couple weeks. Remember, 2 of their wins are against Chicago and Minnesota, 2 awful teams, and I just think the Bucs offensively, there's not a lot to hang your head on either. This is an ideal matchup. Again, I feel much stronger with Atlanta in a tease, but I think big picture, they're a better team than Tampa off a misleading loss last week. Atlanta, I'm keeping the faith. We'll get it done. And this is a game that they should win. If not, then I'm right with you, Teddy, and I say, I guess we throw the Falcons in the garbage bin and they're not going to win the division. But I will give them one last chance.
Bryan Power, everybody. You can find him at WagerTalk.com, exclusive handicapper to us. I like the under in this game, guys. And I ask myself the question, what are the coaches going to do? And I got to believe that both of them have no confidence in their quarterbacks. And I think we're going to see a lot of running. It's almost impossible to run on the Atlanta Falcons defense. And yet I still think Baker is going to throw the ball maybe 22 times, give or take. The under is the play for me. I do like Atlanta as well. Nice handicap, Brian and Teddy. An absolutely outstanding setup. I feel like that was the best you've ever done. It is a privilege to hear you talk. Brian, 6-0 Air Force. Haven't lost a game yet. They're playing the 3-3 Navy team. Where are we going in this game? Not as good a setup as Teddy. Not even close. Like I'm like half a Teddy.
Well, if anyone knows me and you listen to those respective records that you just laid out, Prez, you know which way I'm going to go here. We're going to take the 3-3 team. Okay, so I started breaking the college football slate down on Sunday night, as I always do, and man, there are a lot of ugly dogs that I have circled. But when I start the handicap here, you're giving me double digits in a game where the total is 37 points. So I'm interested right off the rip. And we know about these Commander-in-Chief trophy games. There's never a lot of scoring, okay? The under since 2006 is a combined 40, 10, and 1 when Army, Navy, and Air Force play. 6 of the last 7 decided by 7 points or less. And I know Air Force is playing well. If you remember, I came on the show in the summer and took them at plus money to make the Mountain West Conference Championship game. That's looking like a pretty sharp bet, but I don't like the spot here for the Falcons laying points in Annapolis. They are ranked in the top 25 now, okay? First time that's happened in the regular season since 2010. They were in the top 25 year-end poll in 2019, but you have to go back 13 years to find the last time that they came into a game ranked. Now, facing another service academy, you don't think there would be a letdown, but noon Eastern time start for a Mountain Time Zone team. They had to rally last week to get by Wyoming, a game they trailed the entire first half. Now, Navy, yes, Teddy, it was not inspiring that they were even in total yards with Charlotte and only won 14-0. I understand that, but it's 2 service academies. There's not going to be a lot of points. Last year, true to form, it was 13-10 at Air Force. Navy covered easily as a 2 TD dog. Last 3 seasons, what has Navy done when getting points? 15-7 against the number. That includes 11-3 when getting double digits up to 21. Give me Navy getting double digits in this battle of service academies.
So this isn't my follow-up, but just I want to make this really clear. You didn't actually say that this is a letdown game for Air Force, did you? And there's Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Okay. Because this is one of their two biggest games of the season.
Yeah.
This is by far. Let's look at the recent series history. Talk about last year. And Navy got to 10 against Air Force last year. They had 243 yards of offense. The year before they got to 3 against Air Force, they had 68 yards of total offense. The year before they got to 7 against Air Force and had 241 yards, total yards of offense. Navy's offense, again, 10, 3, and 7 points, less than 250 yards in every recent meeting. The question here is only how many points is Air Force going to score? So why would you just take the under? If you don't think that Air Force is going to blow them out, just ride the trend and take the under. Because Navy's not getting, what did Navy get? 7, 10, 3? You think Navy gets to 14 in this game?
Yes, I think they can get to 14 in this game. Now, does Air Force have an excellent defense? We've talked about it. I talked about it again over the summer that Air Force's defensive numbers the last couple of years are real good. But you look at who they've played so far, not the most inspiring list of opponents either. Wyoming is a good team. And again, they struggled. It was neck and neck last week. They were trailing the entire first half. Now, Wyoming is a better team than Navy. But again, I think it's correlated. I think you're right that it's hard to see a situation where this game goes over. But if you think the game goes under, I just think, again, a total this low and you're giving me double digits. I do think Navy, and history suggests it's always a close game, almost always when these teams play. I don't think they may not even need 14 to cover. I think if they get to 10, they cover. And I think that's not asking very much. I will take the points in this game.
Right. It might be an inappropriate question here, but how does your wife feel about the fact that you only like dogs?
What? Oh. Oh, very good, Prez. They're very good.
Brian
very good.
Freaking Power, brother.
Very good, buddy. Yes.
Looking like an investment banker today. We love having you on.
Yes.
What do you got to promote?
Well, 5% plays. Some say we may have one this weekend. We've been on fire going back to last bowl season, number one at WagerTalk with 5% plays. That includes 77% in NFL and college. We've hit our last 5% plays overall. We will be having one this weekend. Stay tuned. It will be up shortly. We're going to be busting out that NFL and college card. And yes, Prez, there will be plenty of dogs involved, I'm sure.
I have no freaking doubt, Bri. I have no freaking doubt. And I was not implying anything, Bri. I saw your wife last night.
Oh, there you go.
With me?
I wondered where she was. Yes, I wondered.
Yeah. Well, she flew over to Toronto, dude. We went out
the
to
Phillies
dinner.
were up 10-0. Yeah, I said the Phillies were up 10-0. Where are you? Don't you want to see this? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, Teddy is like, how does Prez even be on this show? Teddy, another great job by you, dude. Outstanding. You're on fire today, man.
Let's see if I can keep it going and talk about what bettors learned last night. Or Lawrence, did you have something you want to jump in there with before I actually try to move the show forward?
No, Teddy. You do you, bro. You do you, man.
Zip it and let me do me. So let's talk about what we learned last night. And right now we're seeing Conference USA action every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on national TV. And I'm reading some of the, I'll call it mainstream betting sites info on these games. And in my mind, it's just nonsense. Right? It's not about looking at stats with many of the smaller conferences. It's about watching the games, getting a feel for the personnel, who's got a quarterback, who's got an offensive line, who's got playmakers, who's got a secondary, who's got a pass rush. Watching the game, getting a feel for the personnel, getting a feel for the coaches, and the strengths and weaknesses of these squads. Handicapping, not numbers crunching. I don't think the math or the algo is going to help you beat weeknight small conference football. I really don't. Might help you trade money, but when you're talking about statistical projections and profiles, that's not the best way to beat college football, especially small conference college football on weeknights. If you're watching, reading the local papers, paying attention, there's money to be made. I'm kicking myself with Middle Tennessee, Rick Stockstill squad. I watched the West Kentucky game. I read the Murfreesboro paper. I thought the Blue Raiders might be a value squad, and I had them in Jacksonville State. And they led 22-3, and they dropped a touchdown pass. It would have made it 33 per halftime. And instead, the drop touchdown pass changed the whole momentum of the game, and they lost 45-30 at home. And I'm like, crap, I thought they're not that. No, I said, this team doesn't have it. And then, of course, they won on the road at La Tech last week and gave Liberty everything they could handle last night as plus 16 point dogs. Steve Merrill was on the show yesterday. Great read on Southern Miss. He said this team actually stinks. They're garbage. He laid 18 with South Alabama, 55-3. That wasn't looking at algorithms. That was watching the game saying this team's not right. You don't need reads on every team. But if you're betting Conference US action, watch and read. Don't crunch numbers. That's my 2 cents, and that stood out like a sore thumb last night. And what I learned, Prez. Back to you.
Teddy, you and your cliche stood out like a sore thumb. Anyway, so I want to discuss something, Teddy, and this is, so last night we had a team on a back-to-back in hockey. They were the Arizona Coyotes. How many people in the chat room bet the New York Islanders last night, everybody? And what I'm getting at is I think the best stuff that we do in this show is the stuff in between the lines. You and I both are constantly making small statements here and there. And I think those small statements, are just crucial to people learning how to bet, getting betting information. And I was thinking about that last night, bro. I mentioned the under in the Tampa Bay game as a throwaway line when Bryan Power came on, and I've done that a few times this week already. So you agree? It's these in between the lines statements that I feel have got a lot of value.
So first of all, Lawrence, I agree with something that you're saying. So there's that. But absolutely, yes, we're going to break down games. We're going to give you actionable information. But the best stuff you're going to take away from this show, with the exception of stuff like Ralph's charts and when we have odds makers on and bookmakers on talking about where the money's coming in, a lot of the best stuff you're going to get is on the fringes, the nuances of what we're talking about. And if you watch every day, it can only help. Long term, it can only help. And that's why we encourage you. Watch the show, tell your friends, give us a follow, give us a like. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Teddy, we got a great show still to come. Eric Pauly will be joining us. He's going to look at Miami and Philadelphia. He's got a prop bet for us on the Rangers game. Ronald Cabang, who was greeted with a lot of love last week, he's got an EPL bet that neither you or I will discuss, and an NFL bet in regards to the New Orleans Saints game. Let's get going. Eric Pauly, welcome to Wager Talk. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, guys. Doing well. Nice to be back on the Wednesday spot. And I want to reiterate what you guys said. What you guys talk about in between the lines is so crucial. And just by sitting in the back, I'm learning things myself as a colleague of your guys'. So just keep being you guys.
Okay. Well, thanks for the kind words, Eric. So, look, this is going to be one of the most, I would say, arguably the most watched NFL game this season so far. It sits alone. It's in prime time. It's on Sunday night. And there's so much to unpack in this game. You know, Miami's offense has been almost impossible to stop, but we did see Buffalo do it. Philly is coming off of a horrific brain cramp loss, so they're going to be hungry. This game is going to be super pumped. I'm super pumped to watch it. A huge total, +2 for Miami. How do we bet this one? Hello? Eric, Teddy, how do we bet this game?
So it's interesting. When we look at what Miami's done this season, all right, and look at it as a whole, as opposed to any one individual game, they've beaten Carolina, they've beaten the Giants, they've beaten the Broncos, they've beaten the Patriots. And they had a week 1 come-from-behind win against the Chargers. Ain't none of those teams elite.
Yeah.
Ain't none of those teams, Chargers might be good, might be. But mostly, they've been beating up on bottom feeders. The one step-up game they had wasn't very pretty in Buffalo against the Bills. They were not the right side in that contest. So when it comes to is Miami being valued correctly in the markets right now, I'm not convinced that's the case. I think that might be a little bit overvalued. But my hunch is Eric Pauly's going to give us a different take if we have him back now. Let's see if he has one.
Sorry about the connection dropping there, but Teddy, I actually did catch the end of what you were saying there, and that's a point that I was going to make initially. So when I was first writing the gold sheet on Monday morning, this game, of course, stuck out to me. I've been eyeballing this game for over a week at this point. And from a holistic market perspective, you have situations across the NFL every single week. You have a team coming off either a blowout win or a blowout loss. And the week after, you're then seeing maybe a spread that is inflated or under adjusted based on the results of the prior week. This is a situation where you have Miami coming off another blowout loss against, like I heard you saying, another bad team, which of course Carolina Panthers are one of the worst in football. And you have Miami you have Philadelphia coming off a loss where they looked absolutely terrible against the New York Jets in a game where they could not muster a single point in the second half of that football game. But looking at this spread of Miami getting 2 points in Philadelphia, I don't think that there was a clear over or under reaction in the market this week. I think it's a relatively fair price, but I think that the market is actually still underrating Miami because the injury report for the Eagles is going to be really, really difficult for them to overcome. When Philadelphia does not have Lane Johnson playing right tackle, there is a substantial drop-off in their offensive and how they run offense in general. They have a losing record when he is not in the lineup for the Philadelphia Eagles. On the other hand, you have Miami team whose offensive line is really bad, and the Philadelphia Eagles' strength is their D-line. But what Mike McDaniel does so well is mask the deficiencies of the offensive line. Miami's offensive line is one of the worst in football, but the way that he runs his scheme does everything to protect that. So I don't think that the Eagles have an edge there. Also, you add in the fact that Philadelphia could be missing up to 3, 4, or 5 players in their secondary. We saw Reed Blankenship go down. Darius Slay didn't play last week. He was hurt. A couple of their other fringe backup secondary pieces are also hurt, and you have to, of course, face now Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I just think that this Eagles team is not – we've seen it so far this season. They're not as good as they were last year. There's clearly something missing here. They're not great in the red zone. In Miami, they're the best team in the red zone in football because they stay true to who they are. In a game with a total of 50 that's supposed to be a track meet, I expect that Miami, with their red zone efficiency, will be able to run away with this one. I'm not saying they blow them out, but I think the wrong team is favored because while Miami has not beaten anybody, I agree with that. While this could be a correction from the the Philadelphia Eagles losing outright to a Jets team quarterbacked by Zach Wilson, it still doesn't lead me to believe that this is a spot where they're valued incorrectly. I think Miami is at this point in time, considering the injuries to Philly, is the better football team.
Sure. The injury report for the Eagles is not a pretty one. And it's definitely worth noting that Philadelphia, 3 regular season losses last year, 0-3 against the spread in the game following those losses. So we haven't seen the Nick Sirianni-led squad. Some teams you don't want to step in front of after a loss. Philly doesn't have that track record under Sirianni. What's wrong with the Eagles this year? Is it a coordinator situation? I mean, obviously both coordinators left in the offseason to take head coaching jobs. And that was at least part of the reason why I thought Philly might take a step back. If you're pointing your finger at Philadelphia, one, do you think the Eagles' early season, and I'm not going to say struggles, they're 5-1. They've got the best record in the league. So their early season not blowing everyone out. Is that something that we're going to expect more of the same moving forward, or is Philly a team prime for a correction?
So if Lane Johnson's not in the lineup, but the early reports are that if he even misses this week, it might just be this week and done. That is massive. Like a team that is so predicated on the sustainability and the camaraderie of the offensive line, you can't be losing one of, if not the best right tackle in all of football for multiple games. But what I think it really is, which is a trend around the NFL in general, is within the 20-yard line, in the red zone, they're incapable of scoring touchdowns at a rate that is just, that you would think that there's going to be some progression there, but I think that the fact they lost Shane Steichen, who outside of last week's game against the Jaguars has done a great job coaching the offense in Indianapolis, that the Phillies offense just isn't clicking on all cylinders. They made Jalen Hurts one of the highest paid quarterbacks in football, and I'm not here to say, it's a terrible contract. Jalen Hurts isn't good, but he's clearly, not doing the things that he did last season, and the best way that they're getting these short yard gains are using the brotherly shove and the tush push. Like that's their best mode of short yardage offense. So I think that I would pin it on the on the offensive side of the ball. I think Steichen loss really does hurt this team. And defensively, the injuries have been piling up week after week, which haven't been helping them whatsoever. But this isn't to say this isn't a good football team, but we're talking about a Miami team that that offense is as good as it comes in the NFL.
Eric Pauly joining us. Eric, Teddy, you know, for me, and I've watched most of the Philadelphia games, I think their number one problem this year really is the one thing Miami and San Fran are doing really well, and that is they're not getting their running chunk yards anymore. Last year and the year before, we saw this run game move the chains, and I'm talking 15, 20, 25 yards, open holes. And from that, everything changes. We have not seen that from Philadelphia this year at all, and I think it's affecting the rhythm of that offense. And the other thing is, and this is slightly off topic, but somewhat interesting, because I've been speaking to one of my betting friends about it. There's been so many unders all year, and we were trying to figure out why. And I don't know, Teddy, I'm curious, Eric, have you noticed it feels like the long bomb is kind of going away? It's not going away, but where are all these long bombs? Teddy?
So,
Eric, go ahead.
I have some thoughts there. So it's not like even like it's a, you know, just something you're seeing. The numbers are matching it. So I had the statistics yesterday when I went over a show with Dan, our producer on WagerTalk YouTube, so you should check that out as well. But the numbers are matching the eye test. Right now, coordinators are basically daring teams to dink and dunk their way down the field. And in past seasons, quarterbacks were saying, okay, I'm going to still take the shots down the field. But this year, they're saying, okay, and taking what the defense gives them. So it's not just the eye test. The numbers are matching that teams are playing this more bend, don't break style and are willing to give you between the 20s. But then once you get to into the 20-yard line, the red zone offenses across the NFL have been mostly very terrible as well. And with teams going for it more on 4th down and goal, 4th down and 1 in red areas, teams are sustaining long drives and then coming up with 0 points, or they're just simply not scoring touchdowns, which all lead to either 3 points or 0 points, which point to unders.
Teddy?
So when we look at the NFL marketplace moving forward, looking forward, not looking back, look at the totals this week. 40, 38, 37, 41, 42, 41, 39, 44.5, 43.5. There's a 48 for Chargers Chiefs, 45. There's a 52 for Dolphins Eagles. But the vast majorities of these, low 40s. The markets have adjusted to the lower scoring. And if you ask me, if I bet every game for the next month, I have a choice between betting every game over or every game under. I bet every game over for the next month. I think the markets may have overreacted.
As we get into some shitty weather, Teddy, I don't know, man. I'd still keep betting the unders myself. Eric, the Eagles are 10-22 straight up without Lane Johnson, so I think that was an outstanding take by you. You've got a prop bet for us on the Texas Rangers game. What might it be?
So, been taking playoff baseball since the CS has started pretty lightly, just kind of watching and seeing. Big fans of just the series going on. Tons of fun in Philly. I like that. I have a Rangers ticket, so rooting for them. But Christian Javier started for the Astros tonight. Should certainly go over 4.5 strikeouts. That's his line. It's about even money. I actually saw plus 105 at DraftKings earlier. Looking at Javier's season as a whole, you would think that this number makes sense. He kind of took a step back. He's still a young pitcher, but he is a playoff-tested pitcher because he's been on this Astros team his whole career that is now, of course, in their 7th straight CS. And as a playoff pitcher, he's been fantastic. His first start this season is one playoff start. He played against the Twins. Twins, of course, one of, if not the biggest strikeout teams in baseball. Rung up 9 of them and still, with even allowing 5 walks in that start. So just to show the kind of command of the zone that he has, even when he's off, he's still a strikeout pitcher. But his biggest issue, Javier, this season has been his K rate against left-handed batters. It was just an 18.5% strikeout rate this season, and the Texas Rangers can stack 5, 6, 7 even left-handed batters in their order tonight. When looking at Javier's career as a whole, and then honing in on what he's done toward the end of the season, He has a 23% strikeout rate against left-handed batters in his career. Obviously not a great number, but much better than the 18.5% mark. And in September and October of this season, his strikeout rate was a 32.3% K rate. And that was a huge jump because the second half K rate was a 25.2% strikeout rate since the All-Star break. Battle-tested playoff pitcher in all three of his starts as a playoff pitcher. He's gone over this number. He's, of course, familiar with Texas's lineup as they played against each other a couple times this season. So I am banking on a pitcher who, when at his best, is already an experienced playoff pitcher and is a strikeout pitcher to be able to have 5 or more strikeouts in a game where I expect him to pitch deep into this ball game. He's shown up in every playoff start that he's played on the last 2 seasons, which has been 3 starts in total. And in a do-or-die situation, in a game where I think he'll get at least 17 of the outs, 5 of them should come by strikeouts. Texas is striking out 24% against in the playoffs and 24.5% against righties, so it's not like they're this crazy heavy contact team. So Javier getting 5 Ks at even or plus money, great bet to make for tonight.
So since the beginning of August, Javier has made 12 starts, counting all of them. And in exactly 2 of those 12 starts, he's recorded an out after 5 innings. So he said he's going to get 17 outs tonight. He's been at 15 or less in 10 of those 12 starts since the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you look at Houston first half here if you like Javier, as opposed to the strikeout prop? I'm just curious, like why that's the Javier strikeouts when we don't expect him to go particularly deep, but this is a pitcher we like his stuff. Well, why not just look at Astros first half or first 5?
So yeah, absolutely valid question. It's just when it comes to handicapping and where you want to go about it. When I personally this season, when I'm waking up, opening up the WagerTalk Live odds screen and looking at other things I wanted to handicap all summer long, I just love betting strikeout props. So while you may defer to first 5s or some other handicappers are looking in that way when they want to capitalize on a starting pitcher, my way of looking at starting pitcher is to fade them or back them in the prop market. Javier, his going under these 15 ounces is a great point, but something that killed him in a situation in the first matchup against Minnesota in the playoffs is he had those 5 walks. But the Twins this season were a very high strikeout and a very high walk rate team. Now the Rangers are a decent walk rate this season, but the postseason walk rate is just a little bit over 6%. So he's staying around the zone, and this is do or die style situations, and he's a proven battle-tested playoff pitcher. So that's why I lean toward Javier getting over this number and getting more outs, and why I don't worry about the first 5 and I like the K prop is that's just my cup of tea when I'm betting baseball.
Eric, Pauly, everyone. Teddy, Russell Deck thought you asked a great question, my brother. Eric, you represent the Gold Sheet. You do a lot of writing with them. You're just an incredible sports bettor. What do you got to promote?
Yeah, this week I want to promote more so of the Gold Sheet itself. We're absolutely doing amazing work every single week, breaking down almost every single college football game and every single NFL game, and it's up and loaded on the website around 12 to 1-ish Eastern Standard Time. $30 a week for a new issue. You could hop on the season long. But if you want not just broken down analysis, statistics, trends, angles, and information on, again, all college football, all NFL, all season long, goldsheet.com for the newsletter.
Outstanding stuff, Eric, Pauly, everyone. And guys, if you're a sports bettor, well, you likely are. You're watching our show. The Gold Sheet, it's so inexpensive. It's so jam-packed with incredible information. I would say that almost every one of us uses it in our handicapping. Teddy does. I do. Man, head over there and check it out because it is, firstly, it's the longest sports betting publication in history of the world. And secondly, it's inexpensive. So check it out. It's packed with info. Teddy covers. I went 3-0 last night, brother. I got my hockey season going. I'm super pumped. I do not have a presidential address today. There's only 2 hockey games. I like neither of them, but I still ask everybody to take a minute out of their day and hit that like button, please. My brother, it's time for your big game breakdown.
So you went 3-0 last night. I went 0-0 last night. I passed on the card. We'll be getting into daily action as soon as the NBA starts next week. Let's talk Michigan State. Big game breakdown style. I feel like I'm contractually obligated to talk about this game as a Michigan graduate, as a guy who spent 10 years in the Great Lakes State. So it's a rivalry I'm familiar with. Therefore, let's talk about it. Last 10 years, these two teams play every year. Michigan has won a grand total of one game by enough to cover this point spread. Last year was 29-7. Sparty won 37-33 and 21. Sparty won 27-24 and 20. So even the recent meetings, Michigan State's won 2 of the last 3. In fact, they've won 6 of the last 10 in straight-up fashion. There were dogs of a touchdown or more in 5 of those 6 W's. So the series history points towards the underdog here. Michigan's played, this will be their 8th straight week that they've played. They have the bye next week. I don't love big favorites in this role. They often get a lead and fall asleep. Looking forward to the bye. Michigan, are they undervalued right now? Let's see. They're number 2 in the country. They've covered the spread in 3 straight. They've won 45-7 against Nebraska, 52-10 against Minnesota, 52-7 against Indiana. They've killed everybody. The defense has allowed 10 or less in every game this year. You think this team's undervalued? In the markets? Markets ain't sleeping on Michigan. And Sparty, all kinds of issues. We know, well publicized. They started out 2-0 against Central Michigan and FCS squad. And then you had the Mel Tucker departure / debacle. And the first 2 games following his departure were ugly. They got killed by Washington. They got killed by Maryland. The last 2 weeks, they've been competitive. They lost to Iowa by 10. That was a punt return touchdown. The game was tied with under 4 minutes to play. Last week, they led by 18 at Rutgers. They ended up losing by 3. They blew the lead. Demoralizing? Not when you read the quotes after the game. In fact, some of the quotes stood out to me. Spartans linebacker, Aaron Brule. Quote, "There's not a doubt. We clearly see we can play with anybody at any time. Just have to finish those games, and we will do that." Michigan just wants the W. Yeah, it's big brother, little brother in state. Little brother fights. Little brother punches. This is an ugly team to back. It's hard to go to the window and say, yeah, I want to step in front of this Michigan team. But if I'm playing, it'd be Spartans plus the points, not Wolverines minus. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Great stuff, Teddy. Okay, well, we got Ronald Cabang. Oh, wait, before we get into that, the NFL presidential address is up, guys, so check it out. We did something a little different this week. We're only doing 2 videos instead of 3. The first video is all the totals that I like. The second video is all the sides that I like. Teddy, it's unbelievable. My NFL presidential address, I give out 12 to 15 plays a week across the board. Last week I went 9-6. My total record, if you watch the NFL presidential address, every play I give out, my total record this year is 49 wins and 32 losses. So that to me is outstanding. I'm seeing it really well. Check it out. It's up on our YouTube channel now, WagerTalk TV. I've been telling everybody that I have a big surprise announcement coming up, and I do. I'm just waiting for a package to be delivered first, and it doesn't seem like UPS is cooperating, so hopefully it'll come today and we can talk about it tomorrow. Ronald Cabang joining us, everyone. Ronald, always a pleasure. You got a lot of love last week, bro. People were very impressed with your ability to break down games, so we decided... We had a big meeting, me and myself, and decided that you're going to be a weekly regular on WagerTalk Today. Yeah, congrats, brother. Awesome stuff.
I appreciate it, yeah.
Dude, let's get straight into it. We're going to leave the Saints game till last. You've got an EPL bet for us. No follow-up. Teddy will then set up the Saints game, and we'll move on.
Yeah, sounds good. I know. Not a lot of guys bet the EPL, but I do lead WagerTalk in the Premier League right now, hitting over, I think it's like 66% right now. So it's been doing pretty well. And a lot of the plays are plus money line because of how soccer is. But, breaking down this game, I'm looking at the Wolves and Bournemouth here. The Wolves have put together a 3-match unbeaten streak. This includes an unexpected 2-1 home win against Manchester City and a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa. Hee-Chan Hwang has been their main goal scorer this season. The team's strength really is more so in their ability to capitalize on counterattacks. but they're not good on the road, and they're on the road in this one here. Their last 2 road matches, 1-1 draw against a low-tier team, Luton Town, and then a 3-2 loss to Ipswich Town in League Cup play. And on the opposite side, Bournemouth is actually desperate for a win. They're one of the last 2 teams who are winless. They currently on a 3-game losing streak. They've been shut out in their last 2 Premier League matches, but they played much better at home this season. Other than the 4-0 loss to Arsenal, they've held Tottenham to under their season average. They pulled out a couple of draws against top tier teams or upper tier teams like West Ham and Chelsea. And the Wolves defense, they're pretty much, I would say, consistent as far as the last few games here. They've only been they've conceded more than 1 goal, not conceded more than 1 goal in the last 3 Premier League matches. But if you look at their last 3 matches, specifically on the road, which includes League Cup play, they've conceded 7 goals in their last 3 away matches. And then Bournemouth's defense has not been great in their last 3 matches. They've been outscored 10-1. But I expect them to be playing a little bit better here coming out of the break, especially with them playing with a sense of urgency to finally get a win call, get in the win column. And I think the home advantage is key in this one. Just also from a psychological edge, that goes to Bournemouth as well. They're just really desperate for a win. They haven't scored a goal in their last 4 Premier League. They've only scored 1 goal in their last 4 Premier League matches. So I expect them to attack early, especially to exploit this Wolves defense that struggles on the road. I expect a high-scoring game, 2-1. Bournemouth is the way to go. Is the score that my model is projecting. Bournemouth money line at plus 135 is the way that I'm going.
Take the plus price with Bournemouth against the Wolves in EPL action this week. Let's talk a little NFL Thursday night football. And on WagerTalk TV, we shoot videos for every single NFL, so standalone videos for every single NFL game every week and every top 25 college football game every week. Literally, there's dozens every week on WagerTalk TV. I was shooting a video for this game yesterday, and as in the middle of I was shooting it, I wrote out my script. I started shooting it, and in the middle of shooting it, all of a sudden Trevor Lawrence got upgraded to maybe. And the line moved 2 points. And I'm like, well, looks like we better X out this video. And I had to rewrite it and reshoot it. My thought process was the same, whether Lawrence was playing or not. I like the under in this game. How do you look at the Jaguars and the Saints right now? The WagerTalk live odds screen says New Orleans -1, total of 40, Thursday night football.
Yeah, I can only look in that same direction, Teddy. I mean, I don't think the Saints have gone over since last year. I think they're 6-0 to the under so far this season, 5-1 to their team total under. One way that I'm looking at this specifically is the Saints team total under 19.5. More so just because of what you mentioned, right, with Trevor Lawrence. I think they have the ability to go over their team total, and that itself kind of pushes me away from the low total of 39.5. And just focusing on the Saints here. I know the Jags, they've been solid this season. They had 2 games out in England or wherever they were, and that kind of, I would say, a little bit misleading with the defensive numbers, just because their opposing teams had to travel across over there. But for the most part, their offense has been pretty solid. 12th in the league in passing yardage. Etienne has been a beast on the ground, 450 plus yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. The team's offense ranks 10th in the league in scoring, 23.7 points per game. But I think one thing that they do struggle with is converting on third downs. 24th in the league, 36.1%. On the opposite side, the Saints currently 24th in the league in terms of scoring, averaging 18.2 points per game. They rely heavily on that passing game. Derek Carr threw for over 350 in that loss to the Texans, and they still could only put up 13 points. Kamara, he does damage on the ground. Also, as a receiver, obviously, he's actually caught all 25 passes thrown his way. And I think what you guys touched on the unders and that short yardage game, that kind of aligns with the Saints and why most of their games go under. But their totals are starting to come down. And at some point, we're probably going to have to go with the over. But I just don't know from a full game perspective if that's going to be this game here. Because I do like the Jags defense a little bit to be able to create turnovers in this situation. I know, they're allowing 20.3 points per game, 15th in the league in middle of the pack. They're stout against the defense, right? Against the run, 75.3 rushing yards per game. They, I think their D-line is their strength. They ranked 11th in tackles for loss, also 11th in sacks as well, tied for second in the league in turnover margin. So that's the reason why, I expect the Saints to probably, get some pressure on Carr. They're going to get some pressure. I think the Saints might have some turnovers in this game, at least maybe an interception from Carr from that perspective. But the Saints defense, definitely their strength. They're sixth in the league in points allowed. Opponents are only averaging 16 points per game, third in the league in total yardage allowed. Also third in third down defense, allowing just 32% conversion rate there. But I think, like I said, I do like this Jags offense a little bit against this defense, just from a matchup perspective. And that's the reason why I stayed away from the total, because this low number, anything can happen. Like, a field goal can push this over or whatever. But just focusing on this Saints offense and the fact that they really struggle. I think the key here is, are they going to convert their yardage into points? If they can, or are they going to be able to take care of the ball? I really don't think they will. And that's why I like their team total under 19.5. Like I said, 5-1 to their team total under already this season, 2-0 to the team total under in home. So it doesn't matter if they're home or on the road. They only scored 16 points against the Titans and 9 against the Bucs at home. So I don't know if home field really matters to this team here.
Ronald, I think that's one of the smartest handicaps of the week. I agree with you. The New Orleans Saints will finally, at some point, go over the total. It's now 12 unders in a row. And I just love that concept, because 19 points for New Orleans, man, they don't get that often. And if this game does go over, I think it's going to go over because of Jacksonville. Really smart handicap. What do you have to promote?
Yeah, a lot of people know me as more so on the basketball court, right? WNBA, I'm leading the Wager Talk there. We have a finals game today. I have a bet on that one. And also, I'm already ready for the opening day of the NBA. I have 2 plays up in the NBA for the regular season already. Super excited for that. I was over at Sports Memo for a couple years before coming here, and through 2020-21 season and 21-22 season, I was actually number 1 between both sites, Wager Talk and Sports Memo NBA.
Yep.
Last season, I took a step down. I know exactly what happened, and I'm gonna fix that and I'm gonna correct it. I went outside my comfort zone, did some props and things like that. I'm gonna go back to what works. Low volume, high quality stuff, and this NBA season is gonna be great. I know it.
What a show, Teddy. It started off bad, then you took it over. Everything was great from that moment on. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Take us home, bro.
Enjoy the games. Best of luck with your wagers. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Wager Talk Today. Cheers.